Okay, so the memorial assignment kind of goes like this. First, you have to choose the thing that you want to memorialize, and you have to think about what angle you want to kind of take on it. We've looked at a few different memorials in our class. Those were mostly war memorials. And for this assignment, you're given an area about the size of the Great Lawn in Central Park, and that's what you have to work with. So as you start to think about how big it's going to be or how it's approached, those are the parameters that I want you to be thinking about. For my example, I'm going to make a memorial to the murder of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. And that's just kind of a random idea. You can choose anything that you feel is important or that is meaningful to you, preferably something that is important and meaningful. And the angle I want to take on this is to kind of heighten the sense of understanding the frightening nature of this tragedy and how much it illuminates about the issues that affect each and every one of us. So again, this is something that we have to be kind of sensitive to. I'm a little bit out of my lane here as a white man. And this is an issue that I am coming into as what we might call an ally, or somebody who wants to show empathy, concern, and participation in coming up with a solution to the problem that this event brought to light. So just having recognized that and stated it, let's start with what we know. I want to do a memorial about George Floyd. Maybe that brings up the bigger kind of issue about Black Lives Matter and issues that face Black Americans, or that Black Americans face just by the nature of existing in the United States. So, all those kind of social studies questions that I want you to kind of come at from at least some level of understanding, just out of respect for the subject matter that you've chosen. So, how do I want to focus on creating an experience for somebody approaching my memorial? Maybe I definitely want it to be powerful. So in order to make it powerful, it has to be kind of big. It has to be something that you experience with your whole body, not just looking at, but maybe something that you enter so that you are surrounded by the perception of whatever sensation I want to create. So it's not going to just be a sculpture. I want it to be a space that you enter. And an idea that I had was darkness. And I want it to last for 8 minutes and maybe 46 seconds. That was the amount of time that a police officer pressed onto George Floyd's neck with his knee, ultimately asphyxiating and killing him. So that seems like a significant amount of time that I want the viewer to experience in kind of participating in this memorial. So what my thought is maybe it's going to be like a dark tunnel. And the further in you get, it should take you about 8.5 minutes to go through this tunnel, and the further in you get, the more of a sense of despair and fear should overcome you. And then at the end, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and you exit. So this was my idea. Basically, I want it to be like tunnel, darkness, fear, but then sense of hope. And again, these are the kind of notes I'm asking you to include, okay? It's not even a complete sentence. It's just kind of exposing what I'm thinking about with this. So that dark tunnel maybe is something that is like this. And like using those hatching skills. just like that. So already we have this sense of like a tunnel that you go into. And it's something that looks scary and you're walking through it and you know you're going to be in the dark. So I had this idea to kind of like make the experience of entering and exiting the tunnel very different. So I want the entrances to be shaped differently. Maybe the entrance on one side is like this, a very wide rectangle, like a slit that you can walk into. And I'm going to sort of pretend it's three-dimensional here, and it's going to narrow toward a very narrow point. And I want that point to be very tall. Like that. So maybe the inside of the ceiling kind of goes up toward this point. So I have something kind of like a triangular prism almost, where it's shaped like one of these carved into the ground, where this is an opening and this is an opening. So now I can start to kind of form earth around my memorial. Here it has to be very tall, and here it has to be very wide, and maybe it's like a big mound in the ground, and that would end up looking something like this. That's what it looks like from the wide entrance. Just like that. And from the tall entrance, if we kind of come around to here, it would look something like that. Okay? With this kind of cliff face along one side. Now, I could keep going with that thought and think, okay, well, it's going to happen in a public park, and you can't just have a cliff face that people could fall off. So maybe there's a railing or something to kind of keep people from falling off. And people can be encouraged to climb that mountain and look over the edge, but also to walk through it. So we have this kind of really interesting idea of the space interacting with light, people walking through it, and let's draw a few stick figures to give a sense of scale here. Very small. We'll put a few of them on top of the mountain, on top of the hill. Okay, coming back to this one, the people would be like that tall. Here they are. Here's the railing. Maybe they're standing on top. Just like that. And I believe I also asked you to show me some notes from your reading responses, basically answering critical questions. Show me that you're thinking about that stuff. What I'm asking you to submit is a page that looks like this. So kind of showing your concept, thinking about basically like tunnel, darkness, fear, that kind of thing. And also I would like to see a few three-dimensional type of drawings that just give me a sense of like what this thing would look like. And you could take it further than this. I kind of stopped short with my three-dimensional drawings, but you could take it further, make it look really nice, and that's really what I'm looking for this assignment.